So let's raise the big questions then on our talking point. Are US institutions finally standing up to Donald Trump? Is the great disruptor himself now getting disrupted? Is the Trump experiment unraveling, and what will be the consequences for India and the world? Joining me now, Jayant Krishna, Senior Fellow at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington. He's in Delhi at the moment. Ambassador K.C. Singh, former Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs. Professor Andrew Latham, Distinguished Scholar of International Security and Strategic Studies at Macalester College, joins us. Appreciate all of you joining us. Let me come to Professor Latham first. We've seen a pretty dramatic 24 hours, which is often a long time when it comes to Donald Trump. One of his key aides, the one and only Elon Musk, has decided to leave the Trump administration and his Department of Government Efficiency. And you've got the court now making it very clear that Trump's administration cannot impose these reciprocal tariffs. What do you make out of it? Is the Trump experiment now unraveling 4 months into Trump 2.0?
Well, it seems very much to be. Trump 2.0 really tried to push things very, very, very quickly and circumvented both the American Constitution and various laws in the process. And now we're seeing the pushback from the courts, district courts, not quite yet the Supreme Court, but also Elon Musk leaving his government job with the, I always pronounce it Doge, but it's Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency. And so, yeah, I think we're seeing the wheels come off to some extent. It speaks to a deeper reality, which is Trump 1.0. There were lots of guardrails because there were lots of professionals in that administration that contained and constrained and constricted Donald Trump. And the second administration, since 2024, those figures aren't there. There are a bunch of basically sycophants. And so there are no guardrails except for the constitutional and legal guardrails, which are now beginning to kick in.
So you're not surprised. What you're telling us that the likes of Elon Musk quitting Trump, in any case, Musk himself was seen as a bit of a gadfly, not a practicing politician. You're saying the rails are coming off because of the kind of people he's chosen.
I think that's right, yes. There are no internal restraints in the way there were in Trump 1.0. There are no people telling him, sorry, sir, you're wrong. Sorry, sir, you can't do this. You can't do that. You can't do the other thing. There are no people telling him that. All there are people telling him, yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir. And that's, you know, and so beyond the administration, then there are institutional, I like the term guardrails, that are kicking in now in a way that wasn't necessary during the first Trump administration, but are very much necessary now. I think his project is being, to mix metaphors, completely derailed. I don't think he's going to accomplish even a small percentage of what he thinks he might have accomplished because of the ineptitude of the people around him.
Jayant Krishna, do you go along with that? Both the court order on tariffs, the fact that Harvard University has decided to fight back, the fact that now the likes of Elon Musk slowly deserting Donald Trump, do you agree with Professor Latham? The Trump experiment is unraveling even faster than one might have imagined?
Yeah, Rajdeep, to a large extent, you know, I mean, what Trump essentially tried to do, he wanted to change the world order with an unprecedented speed, you know, shrink the US government, downsize it, you know, and reorient the global economy. You know, multiple things if you look at from the day he assumed power, or even before that, what he started doing, disempowering USAID completely, unwinding the climate change, you know, mechanism which was in place, the Paris Accord he walked out of. The diversity, equity, inclusion policies have been changed all across. So I think on the tariff issue, if you look at from April 2, when the Liberation Day tariff of 10% base tariff and higher tariff for countries with which US had the trade deficit when it was announced, you know, there has been a lot of flip-flop on the policy. You know, I mean, if you look at the tariff were paused, and not just like that, not because of any wise counsel, but because the U.S. financial markets, went down. Then temporarily it reduced the tariff on China, which is largely for most of the product categories about 30%. And now with the this the court, the Manhattan-based Court of International Trade, having come up with this judgment, that U.S. Congress has the authority to fiddle with the parameters and the policy changes in international trade, and not the president. And president only has some emergency powers, which is not the case. So I think 10 days they have given to the U.S. administration, but in all probability they'll go to higher courts. And even on
Right.
Harvard, I think Harvard has got its ranking, its position, as a higher education institution. Not just like that. I mean, they're one of the highest ranked universities if you go by QS ranking or Times ranking, because of the academic freedom. They were given all the time. So I think a lot of things Trump has questioned there. They've said today. In fact, today he said, yesterday perhaps he said that the total cap on foreign students, from the current 30%, 31%, which Harvard says is actually 27%, should go down to 15%, he has said. About $2.2 billion of funds, federal funds, have been frozen. So I think, I think change in governance is also what he's trying to do. So I think, and he
Right.
says trade schools will do far better job. So I think, this is a classic case of a lot of policy flip-flops, which is happening. And, if the current
Is he,
trends are
is
any
he,
indication, I don't think he
right.
will go far in his proposals.
I want to come to you, Casey Singh. Let's for a moment also look at where Trump is standing on the diplomatic front. He wants to be in the center of everything. But what we are seeing is Vladimir Putin doesn't seem to be listening to Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is now shouting irately even at Vladimir Putin. We've already seen his run-in with Zelensky. He hasn't made much headway in the Middle East as well. Netanyahu is continuing to bomb Gaza. You've got a leader who deals with the same Syrian leadership that he said and was seen to be part of Al-Qaeda. He's striking business deals with the Saudis, with the Qataris, who he called sponsors of terror. On India and Pakistan, he's claiming credit for the ceasefire with absolutely no evidence of the same. Is Donald Trump now getting slowly but surely exposed even diplomatically?
Rajdeep, I think I'll be a little careful because he is not going to stop. His disruption is not going to end. He still feels the Supreme Court is with him. It has a 6-3 conservative majority. He will go up to that. Also, remember that some of the tariffs, like on irons, aluminium, and cars, are not under this act. Under this act, he was only using tariffs. This is the 79 Act, which he was using kind of economic emergency, which is used really for entirely different reasons when you're boycotting a country, when you're imposing sanctions and so on and so forth. So this, he will go to the next court and act, but he will try shifting some of these tariffs to existing laws. He's got other instruments. He can start investigations. He can start proceedings. So he so far has shown that he is completely committed to his disruptive behavior, and he's not about to mend or to learn anything from it. Because until the US Congress, the Republicans in the US Congress push back, and we've not seen that. They passed the budget in the Senate, even though with a one-seat majority in the Congress, and now it's with the Senate. One of the things that
But
Elon
even
Musk,
diplomatically, Casey Singh, even diplomatically, all the moves that Donald Trump made in the 4 months, he claimed, I'm going to sort out Ukraine, Russia, I'm going to sort out what's happening in the Middle East. He hasn't succeeded. All I'm saying is at the moment, Trump his bark seems to be worse than his bite. He's not forget tariffs with China now, he's looking to strike a trade deal. Donald Trump seems to be caught out. You don't agree with that?
No, because I don't think Trump realizes this. Trump is just known for a fact-free sort of narrative, and he will change his narrative if he finds. Nobody took his thing seriously when he said he'll solve the Ukraine thing in 24 hours. Even when he's fighting with Putin, he's not about to start supplying weapons to Ukraine. He's not strengthening them. That's the only way to take on Putin. So when he intervenes only, and The Economist magazine put it very well. He says he wants to intervene, but then he stops halfway, never takes it seriously, and he will move on to the next subject. And that is the problem when dealing with him.
So do we
But
take
for
it?
us,
So do we
yeah.
take it seriously? So do we take it seriously, KC Singh, for example, when his Commerce Secretary in an official statement before a US court claims that trade was the reason India and Pakistan agreed to a ceasefire? Is this Donald Trump lying to a US court on record? Is he a liar?
Donald Trump lives in alternative reality. I don't think he considers that lying. Well, it is true. It may be possible that Marco Rubio, when he spoke, he mentioned the trade thing, but it doesn't mean that that is what motivated India or that's what motivated Pakistan to finally have their DGMO call us. But what their perception is may be different from our perception. They may not be lying. It's just a misperception. But they would have raised it. But look at it this way. His tariffs he uses continuously. He thinks it's like a stick in his hand. With Canada, he uses tariffs because you're sending fentanyl. You're allowing immigration. When there is not much fentanyl coming from Canada, against Mexico, he uses it again, illegal immigration, fentanyl.
But it's
against
not, but KC Singh, sorry, let's be clear. Let's cut the chain. It's not working. It's not working. The Canadians have chosen someone who stood up to Trump. The Australians are choosing a leader who's standing up to Trump. The world is not listening to Donald Trump. That's the point. A quick answer to that. Do you agree that Donald Trump is rapidly running out of the equity he seemed to have when he started off? The world is no longer scared of Donald Trump, the bully.
No, that's what I'm telling you, that until the US Congress and the Republicans wake up, Trump is not going to be controlled. He doesn't care what the world thinks. He will just reimagine it and come out with a new interpretation of that until his party wakes up. And that'll not happen till they're closer to the midterms, which is November of next year.
Okay, let me just play out. Donald Trump was asked questions by journalists. And you could see that Donald Trump is clearly losing patience also with journalists. He's had a testy relationship, tough relationship with journalists. Listen to what the question that was posed to Donald Trump yesterday, how he's responded.
Mr. President, Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
6 months ago, this country was stone cold dead. We had a dead country. We had a country people didn't think it was going to survive, and you ask a nasty question like that. It's called negotiation. You set a number. And if you go down, if I set a number at a ridiculous high number and I go down a little bit, they want me to hold that number, 145% tariff. Even I said, man, that really got up. You know how it got? Because of fentanyl and many other things, and you added it up. I said, where are we now? We're at 145%. I said, whoa, that's high. But don't ever say what you said. That's a nasty question. I can promise you, and I have great respect for the people at the European Union, they wouldn't be over here today negotiating if I didn't put a 50% tariff on. The sad thing is now when I make a deal with them, it's something much more reasonable. They'll say, oh, he was chicken. He was chicken. That's so unbelievable.
Professor Latham, we are seeing, therefore, Donald Trump getting increasingly impatient, it appears, particularly with his adversaries. Do you believe that a time will come, as KC Singh suggests, where even his own Republican Party will say enough is enough? Yes, Donald Trump has got the presidency, but even his own party may find that he sooner or later becomes a bit of a liability.
His coalition is unstable and has always been. His immediate circle of advisors are totally on Team Trump. There's no way around that. But the broader coalition that he sort of tries to represent and advance the interests of is really very unstable. When you talk about tariffs, for example, when you impose tariffs, you hurt the American working class. And at some point, the American working class is going to say, enough is enough. When it comes to international relations, there's an entire constituency that still sees the United States as the global hegemon, the leader of the world and whatnot, and is not in favor of the United States disengaging from Europe, which is what Donald Trump is talking about. which is not in favor of the United States disengaging from the Persian Gulf and the Middle East. And so he's going to lose those constituencies if he continues to pursue those policies, which I think he will. There's a deeper rationale. I mean, it makes sense to pivot, as Barack Obama put it, but now as President Trump is actually doing, pivot to the Indo-Pacific, which is why I think there's going to be a very good relationship between the United States and India, for example, because what better ally could the United States possibly have in the Indo-Pacific than India? But that's still going to alienate and irritate a lot of people who think that the U.S. should really be engaged in the Persian Gulf and the Middle East, should really be supporting Ukraine in their war against Russia. I can see the coalition fracturing and fragmenting within the next couple of months, frankly.
Do you believe, though, Jayan Krishna, you agree with Professor Latham that actually India is one of the few countries with whom Mr. Trump may have a relationship that may endure, given the fact that the trade talks appear on track for now, that India may, in a strange way, benefit from Donald Trump's politics and policies?
So yes, Rajdeep, for two reasons. One is for geopolitical reasons. Our place in the world map makes India too important a country for Trump to ignore. And in this region, India is very, very critical a nation. And secondly, once he has picked up a trade war with China, right? At somewhere he has to have allies which are, with whom he has a better relationship and better trade relations, And even manufacturing, not all the manufacturing that he wants to move out of China and go to the US would actually do, but would actually happen, be it Apple or any other product, But I think India still is a better bet for Donald Trump than China, because India is 1/6 the size of our economy, is very, very small vis-a-vis both the US and China. And, but so far in his Trump 2.0 innings, he has not shown any signs of being soft to India on tariff issues, which would happen eventually as he's cornered from multiple fronts, the US courts, the academia, countries around the world. I think so far that may not have become very evident. But in days to come, I think
I'm running out of time, Jan. I'm sorry to stop you. I'm running out of time. I just want to give Casey a final word on that, a short final word. Do you believe that the Trump-Modi relationship will endure beyond this current instability? Trump is using every opportunity to take credit for the ceasefire and indirectly thereby even embarrassing in a way the Indian leadership. But do you believe that this relationship will endure even in these unstable times that now confront Donald Trump?
I think his ideological orientation, making America great again, his focus on America, America first, personal relationships are not coming into it. And we should not overestimate the role of personal relationships. And that is why we've not seen, that's why even Apple, he told them, you have no business to be manufacturing in India. Now, what kind of a friendly leader will say a thing like that when that's not even possible? Because Apple can't move everything to America. Then each phone will cost $4,000 if you make it in America. But he is stuck in a certain mold. He wants to reindustrialize America. He thinks tariffs are the weapon. He thinks companies will be forced to come to America. And that being his primary focus, at some stage, he would cut a deal with China. I don't think India should continue to hope that geopolitically he will weigh in India's favor. I'll be cautious dealing with Trump, because you don't know what's driving him. We know what's driving him, but you don't know how he will balance it when it comes to dealing with India, vis-a-vis China, vis-a-vis other countries, vis-a-vis his larger motives.
Let's leave it there. With Donald Trump, you never know what tomorrow brings. But clearly the last 24 hours have shown that Donald Trump is being pushed back. The courts are pushing back. Some of his own closest allies are realizing that it's not quite working out. And Donald Trump may have to, course correct. But is he capable of course correcting, or is he going to go on in his own unique style? We'll wait and see how that plays out. But I appreciate my guest joining me here on my top talking point. Thank you very much.